Welcome to Chatterbox Radio. Sometimes things go your way. Sometimes they don't. Life, kids, heaven. It's quite the journey. We hope you'll join us.
I'm so happy to have Rich here today. Rich Bennett. He's an amazing podcaster, and he's out off the East Coast in Maryland. And he has a podcast called Conversations with Rich Bennett. And I was so honored to meet him a few months back, and we just connected. We're like relatives. We're pretty much convinced of that.
I think
right?
we're brother and sister.
We are. We got to figure out that little family tree. And when he was interviewing me and asking me questions, we could have talked all day long. And during that time that we talked, I was opening up to him about our situation with mental illness and our family and all the things that we've gone through. And he opened up to me and told me that he has a story. And I was more than honored that he would even consider me someone that he just met and tell his story. And so I just want to thank you so much for coming, and I'm so happy that you're here today.
It's an honor, and Carrie, it's great to see you again.
I haven't gotten an interview from a male that would like to share. I've had a couple of people that say they want to, but we haven't. And so I just think you're going to bring such a great perspective and angle here that maybe I don't know, and I'm ready to learn something. So,
well, I hope so.
Yeah. So,
and I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what time of life this was for you.
It's weird. And now here's the funny thing. And I told you this when you were on my show. I've never talked. I've had a lot of people on my podcast, and we've talked about, mental illness. And all I said, every time I've always talked about how I went through anxiety and depression and I was suicidal. But I've never said why. Never. Yeah. There's only maybe a handful of people that know, actually know why. So my wife, my daughter, and my son, and I just told them last year. And then Jonathan Sheck, because John was on a podcast with Ashley Easter, and John's from here. He's from where I live, and he put a post out that he was going to be on her show live. It's like, okay, I got to watch this. So I did. I watched it, and he was talking about his struggles and everything, but what impressed me was Ashley. The way Ashley just, I guess, talked to him and brought everything out. Mm-hmm. And so I emailed John right after that episode. And next thing I know, my phone's ringing. And it was him, which really shocked me. And we were on the phone for a while. And I told him. So it's, 4. I haven't even told. Every time I went to go tell my brother and sister, it hasn't been, I guess, an appropriate time. Yeah. So, but just to give you some, I guess, backstory. So growing up, my family was great. Loved it. But as with any family, you always have those traumatic times. Mm-hmm. So I remember, a lot of times my older brother and my father would get into fights. Literally fist fights outside, and we would have to have, neighbors come over and break it up. But my brother would never hit my father back. Really? Yeah. He respected my father. He would never hit my father back. At least I never saw him hit him back. Yeah. So, and I think probably one of the biggest things that I remember as a kid growing up, I think I was 13 at the time. And a bunch of guys had brought my brother home. This was after he was in the Army briefly. So he was 19.
So he was older than you?
Yes. Yeah, I have an older brother who was my idol.
So just one brother?
Two. My other brother's younger.
Okay, so you're a middle child.
Yeah. So it's my older brother, T-Bone, who passed away about 6 years ago. And then my sister, then me, and then my younger brother. But the one time after my older brother, I say T-Bone, his name's Terry. His nickname is T-Bone. Him and his buddies were out, and we have these light poles in our neighborhood, and you could kick them and they would go out. And the story, from what I understand, my brother decided to throw a beer bottle up at one, and it shattered and came down in his face, and his buddies had brought him home. And I remember walking down the hallway, my brother laying at the top of the steps, and my mother and father there, and they're just, asking about what happened. They're trying to calm my brother down, and they yelled at me to get back into my bedroom. And I looked, and my brother's eye was gone.
Gone?
Yeah, it had, the glass had come down and it cut his eye. I mean, it was hanging, but,
Okay,
and,
the eyeball was out of his face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he didn't know it?
I don't know about, because my parents, they told me get back in my bedroom.
Oh my goodness. Okay, go ahead.
But it was just something that always stuck with me. But the funny thing is, see, it's funny how a horrible story like this can have humor.
Laugh about it.
When he was in the hospital, he would call us, and I would talk to him. He'd say, "Hey, man." I was like, "Yeah." I said, "How you doing?" He said, "Well, I need your opinion." I was like, "What?" He said, "Should I get a flag or a tiger or what?" I'm like, "What?" He said, "Well, I got to get a fake eye. I got to get a glass eye. Should I get one with a flag on it?" So, he knew I was upset. That's what I sensed. He knew I was upset. So he would always, play around with it. Even when he got older, and then his nickname became One Eye.
So he only had one eye.
He only had one eye. The other one was a glass eye.
And he really was just easygoing about that? Like, he could joke about it with you?
Oh, yeah. He still drove a tractor trailer. He drove a tractor trailer with one eye. Everybody, he was phenomenal at what he could do. But yeah, he got the nickname One Eye and Popeye. So,
oh my goodness.
But I remember, God, there's one, when I was home from the Marine Corps one time, it was me and my buddy Such, and we met my brother and his friend Igor. We all went to a bar, and we're sitting next to this guy. My brother's sitting next to him, and the guy's like, "Hey man, I gotta go to the bathroom. Keep my eye on my beer." My brother's like, "Yeah, no problem," and it was a mug. So when the guy came out, he's like, "Thanks, man." My brother's like, "Yeah, sure." And my brother sit like this so he couldn't see my brother when the guy came out of the bathroom. The guy picked up his mug, and all of a sudden you just heard it. Blah! He threw up. He lost. My brother had took his eye out and put it in his beer.
No.
So, yeah. So he would.
Did he get a tiger eye?
No, he didn't get it. They didn't make that.
Yeah, but your mom was like, hell no. You ain't getting a tiger eye in my house.
Oh, if he could have, she wouldn't mind. But yeah, he would he would pull little pranks like that. And it was, I'll never forget now. And you talked earlier about how I used to play, or how I play Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And I do that to try, and I know I'll never be as good as him, but I do it because my brother used to do it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And he stopped doing it because he broke his hip, and it was hard on him. But my youngest son, we were doing an event, and my brother was playing Santa Claus. So my son was maybe 4 or 5, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he went up, and when my son comes back to me, I said, "What'd you think of Santa Claus?" He said, "That's not Santa." I said, "Yeah, it is." He said, "No, that's TT. Kids always call him TT." I said, "No, that's Santa Claus." He said, "No, Santa doesn't have a poked out eye." I was like, "Oh my God."
You can't fool me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But, and I told my brother that, and he just lost. So then he picked up the name Santa Bone. But, yeah. So I mean, that was, but growing up, that's something that always stuck with me. Another time, I remember the old pressure cookers, and my father was making, I think it was spaghetti, in the pressure cooker. Don't know why.
Different.
Yeah.
He's hungry.
Well, I do it
Hurry
now
up.
I do it now in my Instant Pot, but this was the
yeah.
stovetop pressure cooker, and he didn't release the steam, and he opened it, and it just exploded. I mean, all over his chest and everything. Yeah. So I mean, I just little. I mean, it's weird. Well, that's not a little thing; it's a big thing. But things like that you remember, and then, punishment. We would always get punished if you did something wrong. We would get a spanking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there was one time that I got a punishment that was worse than I would have rather have gotten my ass beat instead. Nobody was home, and my father had this nice car he was working on. It was a 66 Volvo S1800, and it was in the driveway, and it had blocks behind it. It was a stick shift manual. For those that are listening that are too young to know what a manual is, that is now called an anti-theft device on cars.
It's my first car.
Yeah. But this little kid that lived next door came out. I was outside, and he pulled the blocks out from under the wheels, and it rolled back into the street. So, and nobody was home except for me. So I'm trying to push the thing up into the driveway, and I couldn't get it over the curb. So I found the keys and decided to start it and pull it up into the driveway. Mm-hmm. And the garage door, we have a garage, and the garage door was open. And I'm sitting there, I'm trying to get it over the curb. I never drove a stick. I mean, I was young.
Yeah. How old?
So, God, maybe 13, 14. I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember. But anyway,
just a shy of getting a driver's license.
Yeah, which I was, after this incident, I was not allowed to get one.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I popped the clutch. Next thing I know, and I went right up over the curb and kept going. I went to hit the brake, but I wasn't hitting the brake. I was hitting the clutch. Next thing I know, I'm in the garage, and I hit my father's workbench. That stopped the car. I'm like, oh no. Shit. Well, it was easier to roll the car back out into the driveway, which I did, and put the wood blocks out underneath. I didn't say anything. Nothing. Okay. So, it was, I remember that summer we did not have a lot of rain. So my father did not have to cut the grass every week like normal. So he went out to cut the grass, and next thing I know, he calls me, my two brothers, and my sister downstairs. Tells us all to have a seat. My father was like,
kind of have a hint that you knew what was coming?
I had no idea what was going on yet.
Uh-oh. Okay.
So my father was like Ellery Queen, the detective. My father was out there with his tape measure. Apparently, I had put a nice size dent in the grill.
Okay.
And the reason he called us all in there, he went to get the lawnmower to cut the grass. Well, apparently I rode over it was a push mower, gas powered, but apparently I ran over it and pushed the motor through the bottom.
Oh no. So
he couldn't do that. And there was a nice hole in his workbench. And he's asking us all what happened. Well, my brothers and my sister had no idea.
Yeah.
Then I found out the worst part. Apparently, I had knocked the back wall of the house off the foundation by a foot because I hit that workbench that hard.
You're kidding.
Oh, and he's going on and on. And he's like, and then he said that. I said, I don't know, Dad. Maybe lightning hit it.
So you're not fessing up at this point.
No, but right then and there, he knew.
Yeah.
Bullshit, we haven't had any rain. There hasn't been a thunderstorm. So, yeah, then I confessed. And the worst punishment I ever had, he did not talk to me for over a week. I would have rather have gotten my ass beat. He did not talk to me.
For a week. Okay.
For over a week.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me he just went nuts on you because you were telling me how he went nuts on your brother. So he decided to handle you different?
And he was, he would bust our ass a lot, but no, this time he decided not to talk to me for over a week. And, oh my God, I hated that. Hated it.
That had to be terrible.
It was. And I say this a lot. Emotional pain is a lot harder on you than physical pain.
Yes, sir. I believe that.
But the funny thing is, I got a new stereo out of it. Because when he called the insurance company, put in a claim because of the knocking the back of the wall off the foundation.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that the guy that lived across the street from me had a four-wheeler, and he had, I don't know, some type of jack where they were able to pull the back of the wall back onto the foundation and secure it.
Uh-huh.
So my father, after he already had the insurance money, and he bought me a new stereo.
Because he felt bad for not talking to you for a week.
I guess. I don't know. But it's like, man, I told him later, I said, Dad, I would have rather you had busted my ass. He said, I didn't want to bust your ass because I was so pissed. I was afraid I would kill you.
Right. At least he knew his limit. Oh. I mean, there were some people.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, and I had a short temper growing up too. I mean, at one point, my little brother did something to me. I don't know what it was. But I had him down on the bed strangling him, and my mother came in, and she yanked me off because my brother was turning blue. There was another time my sister was watching us, and remember the movie Walking Tall?
No, I don't recall that one.
There was a movie called Walking Tall, and the sheriff, Buford T. Pusser, had a big, and I'm not talking about the one with The Rock, not the remake, the original. He had a wood staff that was made out of locust wood. It was locust wood, which is heavy duty wood, and that's what he always carried, and that's what he would use. So I had one, and my sister did something. I went after her with this stick, and with my Walking Tall stick, I called it. She shut her door because my parents weren't home. I look like Jack Nicholson from The Shining. I am beating on her door, putting holes in it. I was ready to kill her. And my parents pulled up in the driveway, and she's climbing out the window, the second floor window.
Uh-huh. She
was going to jump down to get away from me. And, yeah, I got my ass beat for that. But it's just, I don't know. The anger issues, in all honesty, I think that may have been hereditary.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because I know.
And then environmental.
My father definitely had anger issues.
Do you feel like you had anger issues?
Oh, I did. Absolutely. I mean, doing that to my sister and my younger brother. Yeah. My older brother, T-Bone, he had a pet rabbit at one time. And I remember as a kid, I was holding the rabbit, and the rabbit bit me, and I threw it against the wall and broke its neck. And when my brother found out, I had an old air pop rifle. It didn't shoot BBs, it was just air.
Yeah.
And I grabbed it by the barrel and swung it and cracked him in the forehead with the butt of it. So yeah, I definitely had anger issues, and
wow,
which got worse over time. Now I'm able to control them, and I feel bad because there are times, like with my daughter, she had done something, and I never hit her, but I would just start yelling. Yeah. And then I would walk away, calm down, and then go back and apologize. But when I went in the Marine Corps, that really, I mean, you had to be angry. You had to have that fear factor. Yeah. Matter of fact, because when I got home from boot camp, I'll never forget my best friend who lived across the street. he and I were wrestling around, and he made contact with me. And next thing I know, it's like I blacked out or whatever, but I just heard him going, like gurgling,
Really?
gasping for air. I had my mouth clamped on his throat. Yeah. Yeah.
So do you feel like you can recall getting pushed to that point several times throughout your life, and you just can't pinpoint
I don't know if it was from being, because I was bullied as a kid by some people, mainly because of my older brother, and nobody bullied my older brother. My older brother, more or less, everybody knew him. They knew you did not mess around with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I was bullied at times.
Well,
because they knew they couldn't do it with him, and look, it's Terry Bennett's brother.
Yeah, we're mad at him, so we'll just beat up his little brother.
Yeah.
Well, I can see that.
So as far as the anger issues came from, I don't really, and I remember old neighbors of ours. We were down in the sand pits, and this may have been where it came from, because I don't remember ever being angry until this happened, because I think this may have happened before I tried to strangle my younger brother and went after my sister. By the river, there was all these dirt mounds because they were doing construction there. And it was me, my younger brother, and two other guys, and we were down there playing. And for some reason, the one guy picked up a big rock and threw it and hit my younger brother in the head. And I don't even remember if I checked on my younger brother or not. I just went after the kid. I mean, he took off running, and I chased him for a block. And then, of course, he ran into his house. But I don't know if that's where it came from or what. It's hard to tell.
Well, sometimes, when we fight and we have those struggles and we're working through it, our lives or whatever, was there like a breaking point that something happened that made you just go, wait, what is happening here, and be more self-aware, or even notice this? Because, there are a lot of people that say would have something the same as you, as far as the way they grew up or their DNA or the environment, and they're never aware to it. They still walk around with this wall or denial or justification.
I think what stopped me at times was fear. Not fear of hurting somebody, fear of my older brother or my father hurting me for doing something wrong. Because now we were brought up, number one, you don't take shit from anybody. But we were also told that you never hit a woman, and as an adult, you never hit a kid. And if you see somebody hitting a woman, you jump in there and you beat that guy's ass. I mean, that's the way we were brought up. And I don't know. I don't really know. Other than that, I think it had to be fear. Fear of my brother or my older brother or my father or even my mother. Because it's funny. A lot of people were afraid of my father growing up, and my father was short, but he was a Navy frogman, SEAL, so they knew you didn't mess with him. But my mother was taller, and there were times where my father would try to sneak into the house late at night, coming home late from work because he stopped in the bars drunk, and my mother cracked him in the head with a frying pan because he would try to sneak in. She knew it was him. Yeah. She's like, "Oh, I thought you were a robber." There was another time my father had got jumped by a bunch of truckers, I believe. And he was, I think, laying in the hospital or whatever with a broken nose, and my mother's holding the ice pack on it, and she asked him what happened. And he said something, which I guess wasn't the truth, and my mother took that ice pack and went, bam, slammed it down on the nose again and said, you better tell me the damn truth. So it was, yeah, I mean.
Your family was very physical.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And it's, but the thing is, growing up, I got into a couple fights, but I wasn't a bully. You know, I really wasn't looking for, because I was told you only fight if, if you're going to fight, you better have a good reason to fight.
Yeah.
So, like, if a guy's hitting a girl, that's if somebody's picking on somebody in your family or a friend, if they're not picking on them, but if they're hitting them or something, whatever. If somebody's trying to break into something that's yours or take something that's yours, that was it. But it was always just anger issues then.
Yeah.
And then it was when I got older, that's when the anxiety and depression and suicidal thoughts happened.
And what age was that?
Probably 19. 19.
Were you in the military then?
I was in the Marine Corps, yeah. Well, yeah, and when I went into the Marine Corps, I quit school my senior year. I was 17. And because I was playing in a band, I was going to be a rock star. That was always my dream. Then, of course, I got kicked out of the band. So I decided I was going to go into the Navy because that's what my father did. So I went up. My parents took me up there because I could not get my license because of the car incident.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yep. They would not allow me to get my license. I didn't get my license until I was in the Marine Corps.
And that was
18.
your parents' decision. They were like, because you did that, you're not getting your driver's license.
I was 18 and had to go get it on my own.
Wow.
Yeah. But no, I went to take the test for the Navy. Everything was good. And then I was supposed to go back later to pick up the papers. Back then, you could bring the papers home and have your parents sign, which is weird as hell. So that was the deal. I was going to bring home the papers. My parents were going to sign, and then I would go off to basic training because they had to sign because I was 17. So I had a friend of mine, and it may have been because I think we only had one car, and my father worked at Bethlehem Steel, so he was always working. So I had a friend of mine who was in the Marine Corps at the time, and he said he would take me up to the recruiter's office to get the papers. And thank you, John Chaffee, by the way. So he said, I got to introduce you to somebody, and introduced me to the Marine Corps recruiter. And next thing I know, I'm coming home with papers to join the Marine Corps. And my father refused to sign. He went off.
Boy.
You'll never make it in the damn Marine Corps. What are you... Excuse me. Are you stupid or something? You'll never make it. No. I mean, he would not sign. He refused. So June 19th, I turned 18. June 21st, I was on my way to Paris Island.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the funny thing is, that's probably one of the greatest life lessons my father always taught me.
What's that?
Told me that I couldn't do it.
My dad used to say things like that all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, watch me.
And that's what I did. But when I was down there, I think that's when the anxiety hit. Because I've never been away from my family or friends either.
Yeah.
And you couldn't call. I think you were allowed one phone call when you first got there. And then when you wrote letters home, they would tell you what to write.
Really?
Oh, yeah. But I would, in all honesty, I would do Marine Corps boot camp all over again. After what it taught me, I would do it all over again. Especially,
wow.
You learn discipline, respect. I went in, I was a 150-pound string bean. I got out, I was 210 pounds of solid. Not really muscular, but solid.
Yeah,
and
you're fit.
course, now I'm a lot heavier. But I think that's really when the anxiety started, because I hated, I didn't like being away from everybody.
Yeah.
And
Felt
when
disconnected.
and when I came home after boot camp, oh my God, because I was home for a week or two, I can't remember. And my parents, it was my parents and my sister came down for graduation. Because keep in mind, I never graduated from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, and this is made me so proud, because my older brother, T-Bone, he never made it past 9th grade. My sister was the first one to graduate high school and went to college, but she never finished college. And my younger brother graduated from high school, went to college, but I don't believe he finished college either. But my mother said that is the most impressive graduation she has ever seen. More impressive than any high school or college graduation.
Oh, yeah.
And that gave me so much pride.
You should. Was your dad proud? You finished.
Oh,
you made it.
He was, but he always said that the Marine Corps brainwashed me. Well, no shit, that's what they do.
Come on, Dad, give me a bone.
So, no, but he was, and I found out later that my grandfather was very proud of me, but my grandfather never told me that.
Because
my father said, I don't know.
That's just how those old old school people are.
Yeah.
My dad didn't tell me. He let me till I was 18.
Yeah. So it was it was pretty cool to feel that, to hear that. But then I think I was home on leave for a week. It may have been a week. And then I had to go out to California for infantry school training. Mm-hmm. And I was like, so basically back. And everybody you met in boot camp, chances are you weren't going to see them wherever you went to.
Yeah.
So it was like starting all over again.
So did you feel like it got worse when you went to California? Like the depression and...
something happened in California, and that's when it got worse.
Uh-oh. What happened?
Yeah. So they always warned us, if you go into town, to go with somebody else. Always go in pairs. And I didn't, like a dumbass. And this is what I had told my wife and my daughter and my son. I still haven't told my sister and brother yet. Make a long story short, I had ended up at a house in, I believe it was Laguna Hills. And I don't know if I was drugged or what. I had to be.
If you don't remember it,
yeah,
and you know there is a big difference between having too many cocktails, not remembering, and getting slipped something.
Yeah, because the only thing I remember was laying in a bed, like paralyzed, and I was being sexually assaulted by a guy, and there's a lot of it I don't remember. No penetration, thank God. But I felt helpless because I couldn't move. As I said, he had to give me something. I keep saying they. He had to give me something. And
you sweet baby child man at that time. I am
18 years old.
So fucking sorry about that. That is such bullshit.
It is. And I remember, next thing I remember, I was at the front gate of base. But I never told anybody about it. And I think it was from that moment where it's as if I was searching for something. Because I knew I wasn't gay, but it's like, and I was at this time, believe it or not, 18 years old, and I never had sex with a woman yet, either. And
oh my God, that makes me even more like raging pissed that someone would do that to an 18-year-old boy.
Well, it just, all the stuff that happened afterwards, and after doing these podcasts and talking to these people that have been going through stuff, that's why I go back and I never talked to a therapist. Never have. But just reflecting on everything, and that's when it hit me. It's like that had to be the cause of my anxiety and depression, because I was searching for something. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, because I did 4 years active, 2 years inactive, even when I was in the Marine Corps, drinking a lot. I would go to the bottle
to deal with
and
it.
just drink, and my buddies didn't even know. And I would get drunk, stupid drunk, which is probably not a good thing to do,
Not a good way to deal with it.
Yeah. And even when we were in Okinawa, Japan, all my buddies are like, "Oh, come on, man, we'll go pick up a prostitute and all this." I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." It's like, I didn't want to. And then got back to the States, met a girl. I was still in the Marine Corps, got engaged. And, Christ, I was engaged 4 or 5 times.
Really?
Yeah. And I've only been married once.
Really?
And, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, my son was from a previous girlfriend. We were supposed to get married. And which, in all actuality, that's the last time that I took the gun to myself and contemplated killing myself, because we had our son, he was still a baby, and she said that she thought best that we see other people. And we had a marriage license and everything. And she came out and saw me with the rifle and asked me what I was doing. Yeah.
And what'd she say?
Lied. I just told her I was cleaning it. She knew otherwise.
Yeah.
And she took it. She took the rifle from me.
Good.
And then the other time, again, was over a girl. And there was only 2 times where I had the rifle out. But any time that I was going through depression, whether it was ready to beat some guy's ass because he was he went out with my girlfriend, I would always call my older brother. And it was my older brother. He was my idol. He's the one that could always control me. But the worst part about it is when I got out of the Marine Corps, I started working in the nightclubs, and I became a whoremonger, an actual whoremonger. I mean, it's like I was still trying to figure out, I guess, why that happened to me in California. And
you trying to forget about it too.
Yeah.
At the same time.
So I even while I was engaged to one girl, here I am having sex with other women.
You were engaged?
Yeah.
Did she know that?
Oh, yeah. That's why we broke up the engagement.
Right.
One of the engagements.
Right.
I don't know if I was, it sounds stupid to say I was looking for myself, but in actuality, I think that's what I was doing.
I think you were looking for answers.
Yeah.
Because that's why you're looking. If you had the answers, you wouldn't be looking so hard.
But even working in the nightclubs as a DJ, I mean, I was constantly drinking, then started doing cocaine and everything, and it was an escape.
Yeah.
But when I used to get depressed was, if I was with a girl for a while and then we would break up, the depression just hit, because it had me wondering, it's like, what did I do wrong?
Am I not worthy of love? Why am
Yeah.
I feeling so hated and abused?
Right. But then best friends, your guy, my best friends, which are guys,
Yeah.
they didn't do any of that. So it makes you wonder, it's like, well, damn, wait a minute. Am I gay? But I didn't feel like an attraction to him. So it's like, no, I'm not. I just, it was when, and I hope that never happens to somebody. But it just, I don't, it was weird.
What helped you get through that time? Like, you've contemplated suicide a couple of times.
My older brother. It was my older brother. In all honesty, he's the one I could always talk to. But he didn't know that. He never knew I was sexually assaulted.
So you couldn't even tell him, and
No.
he sounds like he was your best friend.
Yeah, I was afraid to tell him because I figured if I told him that, he'd be like, "Oh man, you're gay and all this shit." That's why I thought that. I knew he wouldn't say that, but that's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's like I was
again.
scared.
There's another fear.
Yeah.
Fear, right?
Yeah. And then it was later, then the anxiety. Oh my God, the panic attacks. And I think the last time I had a panic attack was 6 years ago, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Good friend of mine who we went to elementary school together. He went in the Marine Corps after me, and then he became a sheriff's deputy. And him and another deputy were both killed up here the same day. And that was the last time I had a bad panic attack. And the anxiety was, it's like I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to go into a restaurant or anything because that's where he was shot in the head, in a restaurant at Panera Bread.
Wow.
And then, in all honesty, what really helped me, I saw the documentary movie or whatever called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. And watched that, and then got the book and read it and read it. And that helped me a lot. Even when we found out my mother got cancer, and faith was another thing. I started praying to God all the time.
Did you always have faith? Like, did your parents provide you education of faith or a church or a Bible ever?
We did. Yeah, we went to church all the time. But I think as a kid, you really don't. I don't know. I think as a kid, sometimes you really don't understand what faith really is.
Yeah.
And even in the Marine Corps, we had church and everything, but I never really focused.
But do you
on
feel
it.
like you had that? Like, whenever you started praying, like you were saying, do you feel like you knew where to go, or, well, there must be a God, or was it like you knew that you could pray and go there?
I didn't know. I was hoping.
Okay.
And
yeah.
what helped me gained more faith, in all honesty, when back in 2000, and my wife and I, we got married in 97 on 4/20 of all days, April 20th, which we had no idea what 4/20 was. Or at least I didn't.
And then you found out after.
I didn't. I think she may have, but I didn't. But
did she do that on purpose?
I don't know.
You would know.
Yeah,
you
because
would
my kids ask her, well, Mom, why'd you marry Dad? She goes, because I was drunk. It's like, what the hell? But no, we so in 2000 we were expecting our first daughter, and June 23rd of 2000 we lost her. She was stillborn, and I was angry at God, and it's almost like the little bit of faith that I had, that I was relying on, went out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, right away I called my big brother up, and he came to the hospital, met me there, and, oh, my God. You talk about mad. Brand new hospital wing. It was a new woman's hospital wing, and in the waiting room, new cabinets. He punched holes in the cabinets. I've never seen anybody do this, but the no parking signs, he literally ripped one right out of the ground, concrete and all.
You're kidding.
No, he was pissed. He was angry. And I think, and at the time too, my parents were divorced. My father's living in Florida, my mother up here, and my father came up, and that's what renewed my faith. I said to myself, "There." All right, let me backtrack here. So we were able to hold our daughter, and my mother had came in. She had a angel it was on a little music box. 2 songs can be played and will always bring tears to my eyes: Taps and Amazing Grace. And this box played Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, the box fell off the angel. I no longer have that, but and I was able to put that angel in my daughter's hand. I mean, she was stillborn, so there was no, but I wrapped her hand around it.
Yeah.
And I keep that angel.
What was her name? What was your daughter's name?
Margaret Mary. But I keep that angel on my bedstand. And I pick it up. I pray to it every night. I hold that and I put my hand on the Bible and I say a prayer. I thank God every day. I don't ask him, I thank him. And then when I wake up in the morning, I do the same thing. But my father came up, and at the time my older brother wasn't talking to a lot of people in the family. That brought everybody back together. And I just remember in The Secret, reading that book, it's like, you got to look at the positive things, not the negative things. Why did this happen? And I decided it happened because Maggie, that's what we call our daughter, Maggie, wanted the family back together. And to this day, I swear she is my guardian angel and sits and watches over me. But that helped renew my faith. And now it was later that when my buddy Pat Daly was killed. But, I mean, the anxiety was bad, but I didn't lose faith. It's like
so you felt a switch. You felt a change.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when
Go ahead.
Good. No, go ahead.
I was just wondering, like, did that continue a faith? You could just tell a change inside, like a piece for then on? Or did you also start to become closer, to have a closer relationship or go to church or read the Bible or notice?
Now, here's the weird thing. I was going to church for a while. I'm not Catholic, but I was going to a Catholic church. And I stopped going because I went into church one day and it was during football season too. And the father
only person that can make me laugh and cry in the same minute. All right.
Well, no, because the father was upset and said something about people. When you come to church, you dress nicely. Basically, said not wearing jeans and a jersey. Yeah. And my first thought was, okay,
who cares?
Jesus was right. Are you going to turn a homeless person away?
Right.
And that turned me off from going to church.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, I love Joel Osteen. I was always watching Joel Osteen a lot, and I like not Freddie Prinze, Philip Prince. So I was watching them a lot, and then a friend of mine that actually I was his manager when I was in the IT field, and he actually quit and went to Ohio. I forget the name of the college up there to become a minister, and became a minister at his own church. but it was too far for me to drive. So he was streaming his services, and that was my church. I would watch that.
Yeah.
Every Sunday morning, I was down here in front of my computer watching his services. You know, and the one thing I keep wanting to do, and I haven't done it since I was a kid, is Bible study. I've never done that. Now I read like I'll read parts of the Bible. I'll read, guideposts and all these different things. But I am constantly praying. And I tell my daughter this all the time too, because every time I eat something, I don't care if it's a candy bar.
Yeah.
I'll say grace.
I love that.
I just do. I mean, that's my belief. And I became an ordained minister as
You
well.
did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I've only done one wedding and said I'll never do that again. And I think I did it mainly to, I guess, help with my faith.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm blown away by you, Richie Rich.
Oh God,
Man.
Richie Rich. You sound like my daughter or my sister-in-law now. She used to call me that, Richie Rich.
So,
jeez.
what would you say to somebody that was listening to this that is either having suicidal thoughts or knows someone who is having those thoughts or went through something like you did? What would you say to them?
If they're having suicidal thoughts, first of all, I would say get a hold of somebody, talk to somebody. Thank God for podcasts, because you're hearing more and more people talk about it.
Yeah,
now.
that's right.
And I think when more people talk, which is why I decided to, come on your show and talk about it, because I think if more people are able to do that, it's going to help other people. So I would say, first of all, get help, whether it be like I did, reading the book and finding your faith helped me. Some people, they need a therapist. Some people need drugs. I mean, granted, yes, even though I was doing cocaine and marijuana back in the day, nowadays I got to be on the brink of tears and pain before I even pop a Motrin.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't like drugs. It's like there's too many side effects. You take I'm sorry, but why are you going to take medicine to help prevent a stroke, but it could prevent a stroke? Why are you going to take medicine that will help with your mental illness, but may cause suicidal tendencies?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's
so contradictory, isn't it?
Yes. And I've been looking more into, I guess you could say, like the holistic health and all. I love the essential oils. I love my tea.
Oh, yeah.
Herbal tea.
I have a weighted blanket. I don't know if you've ever heard of a weighted blanket.
Yes, my daughter's got one. She loves it.
They have been sent from heaven. I didn't even know these existed 4 years ago. Weighted blanket, tea, meditation, music.
Thank you. And that's another thing that, in all honesty, that helped me out a lot, was the meditation. And I think I told you before when you were on my podcast, when the anxiety, another time when it was big, I was at 300 pounds. And when you're overweight, you can't even bend over and see your toes. That emotionally, that hurts.
Yeah.
And
physically, it makes you more depressed as well.
Oh, yeah. Your back kills you. And then when I started doing the DDP yoga, oh, my God, I lost 50 pounds and made me feel completely different. Made me start feeling a lot better again. Now I got, after playing Santa, it's always a hard time because you got a lot of, lose some of that weight.
You got to play the part.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to beef up for that.
Yeah.
It's like game day, season start. Let's get it on, Santa. Ain't no skinny Santas around here.
I think this year I did put on 10 pounds. I got close to 270 again. Yeah. So it's like,
yeah, but 10 pounds on a dude, like, y'all could just, like, not eat for one day and you lose 20 pounds. Women, it's like, I swear, we have to kill ourselves for 6 months.
The funny thing is whether you're a man or a woman, when you do that diet the first time, Most of that weight you lose is water weight.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But when you gain it back, a lot of it's not water weight anymore.
No.
So it takes longer to lose again.
Yeah.
You know, and God, I would feel guilty.
But look at you now. Like you've lost weight, you have energy, you got like 3 different podcasts going on, you've interviewed so many amazing people, you have blessed so many people by your just beautiful spirit and infectious energy that you have. Like, if you would have taken your life, my brother, look what all that you would have missed and everybody else would have missed out on.
Well, you know, and we've talked about that on some of the episodes, because I think a lot of people, like, you know, people that are addicted, especially to heroin, it's not really the heroin that kills them, it's the fentanyl now. Yeah, but the sad thing is, if they OD and live, they want something stronger. But when you're thinking suicide, you're contemplating suicide, and you're thinking, and I believe that if you're on heroin, it's basically a slow road to suicide, sometimes a fast road to suicide.
Yeah.
Because you're not in the right mindset. You don't care if you live or not.
Right.
You're not thinking about how it's going to affect your family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my cousins committed suicide, and I saw what it did to the family.
Yeah.
And it's just, now I've seen too many people, too many friends that have gone through it, that have OD'd, that have died. I mean, God, growing up, I mean, just 3 of my childhood friends that we grew up together are no longer here. You know, one was shot in the head, the other one bad car accident, and the other one died in his sleep. You know, but and then of course with package, it's just it's hard, but you always have to look at why did it happen? What is God's plan?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know a lot of people don't like
do it to you.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like like when we lost our first daughter, you know, some people that have been through that will be so pissed at God and like, well, I don't understand. Why would that be His plan? Why would He take a life? And here's something another thing that helped me when I read Tuesdays with Maury, which is based on a true story.
I read that.
Okay. Remember what Maury Schwartz said, you don't know how to live until you learn how to die. And that always resonated with me. Mm-hmm. And because after reading that, and I'll never forget this, because when my mother had cancer, I gave her the book to read after I was done reading it.
Really?
And that book got passed around. It helped a lot. My mother went into remission. And then first time I yelled at my mother too, because she went into remission and started smoking again. And I laid into her.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But here's just to show you how my faith is. Both of my parents, when they were dying, they were on home hospice, and my sisters. So we were able to go over there and spend time with them.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I felt guilty for doing this. But then as I was doing it, I realized I shouldn't feel guilty. My parents, they went on a cruise when my father was sick. And I've always told them I wanted a crucifix. I never had a crucifix. So they got me a crucifix from somewhere, Aruba or something, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was upset because she never got a chance to get it blessed. I was like, Mom, I said, you don't need to get it blessed. I said, I believe. I said, and if I'm holding it and I'm praying to Him,
you're blessed.
I'm blessed.
You're right. I don't need a priest to bless it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but I'll never forget the one night I'm at my sister's, and I'm laying it on the sofa in the other bed, and we knew it was just a matter of time before my mother passed. And I'm holding on to that crucifix, and I'm praying to God to take her so she doesn't suffer anymore, to let her start living.
Yeah.
Because I always thought, well, I didn't always think, after I started reading books and everything, I believe that we are like a shell here, and you don't start living until you die. Because I believe once you get up there is no pain.
Yeah.
There is no racism. There's not. It's all butterflies and cupcakes or whatever you want to say. I don't know. But,
we're all looking for that right now.
And I think it was the next day that my mother had passed. But I knew she wasn't in pain anymore. Like when my older brother passed, it'll be March 24th, will be 6 years. He was in the hospital, and I'm sitting outside of the hospital, and I'm just bawling. I'm bawling. But I knew my brother was in a lot of pain, because of the broken hip and everything. And when he passed, it was weird. It was as if I felt like a ton of bricks were lifted off my shoulders.
Really?
As if he was telling me
he gave you
he's
peace.
Good. He's fine.
Got peace.
Yeah. The weird thing with that, the night before he passed, he called. Now, let me backtrack a minute. My older brother was diagnosed with diabetes. And he called me up and told me, and he was upset. And I said, dude, you'll be fine. You'll be able to, just watch your diet, do whatever the doctor tells you. And then my sister was diagnosed. But then my younger brother found out he was diabetic. He called my older brother up the night before my brother passed. And he was talking to him. He said, man, I don't know what to do, but he said, they just told me I got diabetes. And my brother told me, he said, dude, you just need to, same thing I told my brother, basically. Watch your diet. Do what the doctor tells you. And the conversation was going on, and then my older brother, I don't even know how it came up, but my older brother told my younger brother, he said, Sean, if I pass away tomorrow, I'd be okay with that. It's as if he knew. It was weird. And sure enough, the next day, I believe he had a stroke in his car.
No.
In his truck. And luckily he wasn't driving. He drove down to the mailbox. And and that's what happened.
And how wild.
I know it hit my younger brother hard.
And he got to tell him that.
Yeah.
The fact that he told him that had to give you both such peace that he was okay with that.
Well, I didn't know that until after he died. That's what my younger brother told me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, in all honesty, I wish, because at the time him and my sister weren't talking. I wish they would have been talking, but things are what they are. So I do believe that when it's my sister's time, they'll be up there talking. Or they may be talking now. I don't.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah. There are times in my one studio when I record in person, I've had 2 people tell me they sent somebody there.
Yeah.
And at first I thought it was a kid, and they're like, "No, it's an older adult." I was like, "Yeah, okay," because my brother, probably him. I said, if somebody slaps me on the back of the head, then I know it's him. So.
Oh my God, that's so funny you just said that.
He would do it too.
That is really funny that you said that.
Why, did you just feel something on the back of your head?
Because last night after I was praying, I was sitting there and all of a sudden I went like this. And I was like, because my husband's out of town, okay? Right. Everybody was asleep. I was having my quiet time. It's 11 o'clock at night last night. And I'm having some peaceful time, and I'm meditating about today and just praying, Lord, just direct my steps. and I'm sitting there like this, and all of a sudden, my head was like somebody hit my head.
Whoa.
And I sat there for a second, and I was like, is somebody in here? Like, I thought to myself, I think Major's down here, because I had the lights off, and I'm like, I bet he wants to sleep in my bed. That's how much I thought someone knocked me in the head last night.
Wow.
And then I sat there, and I was like, I wonder if it was an angel.
Could have been.
And then you just said that, and I was just like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
and the other thing that happened last night that was crazy, we have a cooking range in our stove, right?
Right.
And there's buttons. There's like auto, there's like high for the fan. There's like 10 buttons up at the top, and then the off button and a light button. My daughter comes in, she's 18 years old, and she's like, it won't turn off. It's just on. I keep pressing the button. And I'd press a button, and the light would turn on and not the fan. And I would turn the light, and then the fan would turn on. And then all of a sudden, it started doing all of it. And I'm like, this thing, we got to get it looked at. And we couldn't get it to stop, and it was really loud. And my son was upstairs trying to sleep. And I was like, dang it, I really need it to stop. And I looked at Sophia, and I go, in the name of Jesus, stop. And it went, whoop.
Whoa, no way.
Stopped. And she looked at me, and I was like, give me 5, girl. Power of Jesus right there.
Wow.
Am I saying that? I don't know what I'm saying. I'm not claiming anything. I'm just telling you the facts. That's all I'm doing.
Wow. That's
so,
amazing.
maybe Jesus brought in your brother last night. Know that you were going to be coming in, giving you a heads up.
There are times where because I bought my parents' house where we all grew up. So there's times that my wife has noticed this, my son, whenever he comes over, and even my daughter, there'll be times where be like, okay, is that Grumpy? That's what they call my father. Or is that TT here? Because they would smell, they could smell them because they both smoked.
Cigarettes?
Yes,
yeah.
But you could tell my father did the little Winchester cigars, which is a different smell than regular cigarettes.
Yep.
So you could tell. And even where I record at times, I go in there and I could smell it. It's like, oh yeah, he's here with me.
Yeah.
So
we've experienced that. Adam's mom passed away when we were dating years and years ago, and she was a smoker. And every now and again, like, one of my kids will be standing in front of the refrigerator, and no one has ever smoked a cigarette in this house. And none of our neighbors do, because I've even thought, is it coming through the vent? Did somebody drive by and the wind just happened? Where our refrigerator is, there's no vent around it at all. Like, they open it and they're like, do you smell it? And it's like those same Marlboro Light cigarettes that she used to smoke.
Oh, God. Yeah,
it's wild, isn't it?
It is.
So much we
love
don't
it,
know.
Because it puts you at ease. I believe
it does. It really does.
I believe it does.
I think that we're given these certain sweet moments just to give us just that. Say hi, we love you, you're going to be okay, you're going to make it, we're going to be together one day.
Whereas a lot of times my daughter she goes, did you guys hear something last night? And I'll be like, yeah, it was probably T-Bone or Grumpy or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, tell them they need to sleep.
Yeah.
They're sleeping, so...
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing all this. Like, I just want you to know when we get off, I'm going to go lay on my bed and I'm going to cry my eyeballs out. Like, you touched me because your story is so amazing and you have such a sweet spirit, and it angers me that happened to you.
Yeah.
And it angers me that there are people out there that hurt other people like that.
Take advantage of them.
And they don't care. That's the devil. That is evil. That is Satan. And
it is.
And if it's okay before we get off.
When I told, because the first time I told was, Jonathan Shecker, and it was, in all honesty, if John didn't call me, I probably wouldn't have told my wife and my daughter and my son.
Really?
He told me, he said, Rich, you need to tell them.
You
tell them
do.
first. He
I'm
said, and
so glad
it's
you
going to
did.
help you. So I got to thank John for that. And but when I talked to him, I was crying. I talked to my wife and daughter, and I was crying. And my son, I cried, but not as much. Then after telling it, it's like I guess I don't.
You're
I don't
bringing
think
the
you're out
dark.
of
You're bringing the
tears.
light to the
You're
darkness.
bringing And it's like I always said, you have to. So the good out of that is me telling my story and hoping that it helps other people.
It will.
And I
Trust
hope
me.
that people, they need to talk about it. If there's problems, find help. Talk. If you don't want to go to a therapist, then just talk to somebody. Because when
that you trust.
oh my God, when I told my wife and my daughter and my son, even telling John, the relief was unreal.
Yeah. And now we're going to turn it into helping people and making it for good.
And when my co-hosts hear this, I know I'm going to get yelled at.
Why?
They're going to be like, well, how come you never brought that up on any of the episodes? Because the podcast isn't about me. It's about my guest.
Yeah, that's right.
So
it was the right time.
Yeah.
All of it's about timing. And
And
I'm so
I just
honored.
felt that synergy with, is that right? Synergy?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. With you. That's why it's like, okay, I'll take care. So.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you, because like I said, you're the first one that on a podcast I've talked to.
Yeah,
about
publicly. You're brave. You're so brave. I know God's going to bless you beyond measure for that one, because you are really laying it out on the line and putting yourself out there.
It just it helps, and talking to all these other people on my podcast, I think made it a lot easier too.
Yeah, because you
because
see
I
that you're
figure-
not alone. Everybody's going through things.
And there's
Don't
people
lie
worse
to
off than me.
yourself. Yes,
There's people worse off than me.
That's
and
right.
if they can tell their stories, then why can't I?
That's right.
So,
You
but
man.
no, seriously, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, but before we get off and I stop recording, I'd like to pray with you.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Dear Father, God, Holy Spirit, I just can't thank you enough for being with Rich and I right now. To having our paths cross the way that they did was miraculous, and I know that's from you. And I know that you work in so many different ways, and one of those ways was for him to share his story. And I am blown away. I'm blown away by him, his strength, his courage to come here and be able to lay it out all on the line. I pray for our voices and the words that we've said and the recording that we made today. I ask that you take this message and you deliver it right to the person that needs to hear it. I pray that you bless them. I pray that you save lives. I pray that you heal the mentally ill. I pray that you step in and give them a miracle that they can't explain but only give you credit, just like Rich. I thank you for him. I ask that you cover him, his beautiful wife, his children, his extended family, that you will bless him beyond measure today, and that you will just straighten out his paths even more, carve out a even bigger path for him that he even thinks that he has. I can't wait to see what you're going to do in his career, in his life, and his relationships. And I just thank you for him and for that. In Jesus Christ's holy name, amen.
Amen. Man.